Hey guys, welcome into the Pokemon Reborn channel. We are back with another top 5 named weapons of the week. And if you would like to enter a named weapon, of course, that you feel is worthy of the top 5, you can check that out in the description below if you need to contact me. Otherwise, hit me up in the comment sections below. And if you do enjoy this content, please hit the like, subscribe, so it does get monetized where people can see this and get some more traffic to the channel. Of course, I appreciate it. Without further ado, let's get into number 5. Number 5 is the Lethal Thorn. Yes, this Lethal Thorn getting stuck in your side. If you're able to pick it out, at least you can sell it for a good price, providing you didn't already die. This weapon is beautiful. It's gold, which ultimately makes it incredible. Let's be real. However, I do want to give a shout out to Nick Farrell. Thank you for the submission. There is some things we need to talk about with spears in particular. So spears are great early game weapons. Ultra late game, you can use them for certain scenarios, but unfortunately the damage output is not what draws you in. The warding off definitely helps with the spear wall, but this weapon does alleviate some of the stress in actual combat, constantly attacking the foes, especially when you're using a duelist build or you're using a tank build. So it's effective in both categories, but let's get into what makes it tick. Starting out, the damage is the same at 35 to 40. The ignoring armor, however, gets a boost of 16%, going up to 41, or going from 25 rather to 41. Effectively, that's not a crazy deal ignoring armor, and it has to be used with actually stabbing somebody who has armor. Just remember, because a lot of times we're using them against nachos, we're using against aggressive enemies that like to just jump right in. Now, that's still really nice, but the next big thing is the 30% increase boost from 100 to 130 effectiveness against armor. I love that, I really do. But if we're being realistic, on the absolute top end, we're talking about 15 extra damage on the top, so that's 55 damage, a single strike, and then hoping for that same result in the next. Consistency is key, and this thing does get pretty consistent, but at most case, this thing is the most dangerous in a duelist's hand. Now, however you decide you wanted to use this, Nick, is up to you. Nonetheless, it's a very amazing single-handed spear. Congratulations. Number 4 is the Violent Chopper. Now, I had to make a little bit of a splat there because this thing's gonna absolutely tear you open, spill your guts everywhere, splatter it on the walls, make it look real nice and fancy. And you know what the best part is? You can look like a Urukai when you're doing it because of how this freaking weapon looks. Now, I gotta imagine that Battle Brothers did take this from Lord of the Rings a little bit with that little hook at the very top, but nonetheless, I want to give a shout out to Snuck once again, submitting some amazing weapons. This thing is muy, okay? When you talk about a early game devastator, you're talking about head choppers in general. If you can kill a Orcheon and obtain this weapon, using it effectively against anything early to mid game is dangerous. The thing I love most about it though is with a duelist, which we talk about pretty often, this Violent Chopper is going to be so violent out into the field, it's going to be so stinking sweet, okay? On the low end, here's the deal. Let's get into the actual stats here. So damage is 47 to 82. Effectively on the base, you're jumping 7, and on the tall end, you're talking about 12 extra ceiling damage. That's really nice. But where this thing's really going to shine is the ignoring armor at 39, jumping up from 25 to 39, which is a 14% increase. Got to love that. The biggest issue with these weapons in the first place and why people usually tend to stay away is the buildup of fatigue. Build up 5 more fatigue per swing. That can be pretty devastating unless you're using a mastery. That's a whole nother scenario. And the reason that we love head choppers in the first place is because of the 110% effectiveness against armor. So essentially at 82 and that 10% extra attack on armor, well, anywhere in that range of 47 to 82, it is really nice. It's just an awesome weapon all the way around. The ignoring armor is really nice. Catching a bleed on anybody is just fantastic. There's so many avenues here, but the main thing is you want it on a duelist, you want somebody with high fatigue, and that's one of the big driving points that brings this weapon down at the end of the day. But still, in the right hands, it's absolutely devastating. Love it. Number 3 Number 3 is the Unsung Hero's Fury. Oh, just a pissed off barbarian and his axe swinging around going la 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 till your head rolls off. Yes, because that's what's going to happen. Swinging around in circles, spinning like a ballerina who's pissed off. Couldn't get any better than that. Thank you. Call emergency for this great weapon and suggestion of a weapon at least. Man, I am baffled by these next 3 total. Really what we're talking about here, and we're just going to dive into the stats and talk about the dangers of this thing. So the damage itself goes 98 to 122. That is effectively, when you look at a great axe, we're talking about it hitting pretty much the top end. A great axe does 80 to 100. This thing is literally at about the top end at 98 and then going up to 122. That is a fantastic damage. Then you're talking the jump in effectiveness against armor, which is 167 effectiveness. Now, if you want to know the actual stats here, it is 202% effective or damage to armor if you hit 122 worth of damage, including the effectiveness against armor. So after stripping away the armor, which most things that you face in the game, providing not using Battleforge, that is devastating. Oh man, that is just like that's like going up to a hedge knight and peeling his armor back to look at his chest and then slicing him open. The actual damage itself, getting beyond that, could be like a one-shotter. Against most things, this thing is going to be devastating. Surprisingly though, between the stats, the minute stats that are going to come up in the next 2, slightly beats it out. So let's move on. But before we get into number 2, I gotta ask for that like and a subscribe. If you do enjoy this content, please help it grow. It is kind of a piece of crap, but at the same time, I don't want to be mixed up with the likes of Bono. If you don't know what I'm talking about, that is a South Park reference. Let's get into the next one, number 2. Number 2 is the gruesome Widowmaker. Well, let me tell you what, I'm just saying, if you have a wife and you want to get underneath this bad boy, it's going to devastate you. Man, that did not sound right. That's what she said. Listen, this thing is gruesome. At 103 damage to 129 damage, the boost is a little bit more. You're going to notice that it's very, very similar to the Unsung Hero's Fury. I want to give a shout out to Shimmy, I think is how you say it, or Shmi. I'm not sure how you say it, but nonetheless, thank you so much for the submission. It is fantastic. So there's 2 main things you need to look at. Number 1, looking back on the Great Axe, again, it's 80 to 100 in terms of damage on just the base Great Axe. This thing overshadows that at 103 to 129. Wow, 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 wow. So freaking great. And then the effectiveness gets armor, the 40% ignoring armor with the 150% effectiveness against armor, excuse me. Those all together are all boosted because of how much pure damage this thing is doing. On top of that, it knocks a shield out with a 55 damage to shields. I don't care what shield is in front of you. If you're facing a warlord, you can go up and just rip his shield off of him and then rip into him. Now you might be wondering, okay, Puggo, what is the difference between the last one and this one that makes me choose this? Well, I crunched the numbers, and with 100, now the other weapon had 167% effectiveness against armor. That was 202 damage to armor. This thing on the top end does 193 against armor. The gap there is less than 10. It's 9 points different, okay? Why am I bringing that up is the fact that really the damage is almost equal in terms of that stat. The actual damage everywhere else has been boosted slightly better than the Unsung Hero. Slightly. But the final blow to this is the shield damage, which is just crazy to me when I really get down to the nuts and bolts of it. Ultimately, you're barely missing out on armor damage, but you're getting more overall damage, and you're getting a boost to shield, knocking out a shield, and then creating even more devastation. For a brother who has... This weapon is more effective on a brother that doesn't have a crazy amount of melee skill. Let's just say 90. Okay, 90 melee skill to a guy who has 100. This thing can just, let's get rid of the shield and then absolutely devastate whatever it is. or if you get that lucky hit, you're really not going to see much of a difference between these two weapons. So that is why I ended up making two, but trust me, they're on each other's tail. Once again, thank you for this one. It is beautiful. And now, the one you've been waiting for. Number 1. Number 1 is Barbarian King's Harbinger. Yes, this thing is so hard, it's going to bring the power, it's going to bring the bloodshed, it's going to shed blood all over the place and eat them alive. Nom, 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 nom. Holy crap, this is one of my favorite weapons. This has been so great to see another one of the two-handed rusty axe. This is great. Listen, once again, the cold barbarian fingers that left this thing in the snow is really going to miss it, at least as a Geist, because I'm assuming they're dead. The main thing here, between the other weapons, we talked about how great a boost they get, but let's kind of dive into this one and see what makes it tick. So starting out, the damage is 95 to 114. When you look at the Great Axe or the Heavy Rusty Axe, you can see that you're really, when to the Great Axe, you're almost doing the same thing, effectively hitting the top end at 95. And then you're going up even farther to 14 extra damage rather, from the Great Axe. I'm trying to pull it from that perspective. Now, where it synergizes or changes from a Rusty Axe is the 61% of armor, effectiveness against or ignoring armor. 61. On a Great Axe, it's only 40. This thing, on a single strike, at rolling 100 out of the 95 to 114, is going to do 61 damage. It has the potential of doing over 65 damage at the high end of, or I think it's like 67 damage, ignoring armor. At 95, you're guaranteed a 50 damage to the hit points. Guys, that is stupid. That is stupid. You're tearing armor up already. You're not that far off. You're at about 100. Usually, when you do a strike with this, you're going to be around 170 to 180 on the top end of armor damage. But the effectiveness into the actual hit points is disgusting. And I want to give a shout out. I haven't even done this yet. A shout out to Jack Blade. Congratulations for this sickening weapon. I could not believe that this weapon came out of the woodwork against the other axes to be chopped down. I am baffled by this thing. I think it's incredible. It's a beautiful weapon, even for it being so nasty with Tetanus Shot City going on there. But that is what it is, guys. Thank you for this mission once again. Thank you, guys, and please hit the like, subscribe once again, and it helps the content go out there. I appreciate everybody watching the whole video through. It does monetize, letting other people see this content. And without further ado, I will see you in the next one. Bye!